The Arabic word Taqiya means prudence, caution, or protective fear. In Islam, it refers to a practice where a believer may conceal their true beliefs or religious identity when facing serious threats, persecution, or harm. This concept is not about denial of faith, but about wise discretion allowed to protect life, dignity, and inner belief when openly expressing faith could lead to danger. To understand Taqiya fully, it is important to explore its historical background, the guidance given in the Quran, and the wisdom it embodies. The reality of early Muslim persecution from the earliest days of Islam. Followers of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, faced significant persecution. In Mecca, they were subjected to social boycott, verbal abuse, physical harm, and even death for embracing Islam. This environment created a real threat to the lives and well-being of believers. Under such circumstances, openly declaring faith could have devastating consequences. Many companions practiced their religion privately or concealed their beliefs to avoid harm while remaining sincere in their hearts. This practice of protective concealment grew out of necessity and reflects Islam's practical compassion for human life. Linguistic meaning of Taqiya. The word Taqiya comes from the root waka, meaning to shield or to protect. Thus it literally means protection or precaution. In Islamic thought, it involves shielding oneself from danger by concealing beliefs or intentions when openly expressing them would cause harm. It does not imply abandoning faith, but a temporary measure of safety. This concept parallels protective practices in other faith traditions throughout history. Quranic foundations of Taqiya. The Quran acknowledges the difficulties believers face and allows for prudent protection. A key verse in Surah Al-Imran states, "Do not take the disbelievers as allies instead of the believers. And whoever does that has nothing with Allah except when taking precaution against them in prudence." This verse recognizes that while loyalty belongs to fellow believers, taking precautions to protect oneself against harm is permitted. Another important verse is Surah An-Nahl. "Whoever disbelieves in Allah after his belief, except for one who is forced, while his heart is secure in faith, but those who open their breasts to disbelief, upon them is wrath from Allah, and for them is a great punishment." Here, the Quran allows for a person to outwardly deny faith under compulsion, while maintaining inner conviction. This distinction highlights the value Islam places on sincere belief, even if external expression is restrained for survival. Early examples of prudence in Islam. While the specific term Taqiya was not commonly used during the Prophet's lifetime, the principle of prudence and concealment appears repeatedly. During the Meccan period, when persecution was intense, some Muslims concealed their faith in public while practicing it privately. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, demonstrated this wisdom by balancing open call to Islam with protecting his community from harm. Teachings from Imam Ali on prudence. Imam Ali, cousin and son-in-law of the Prophet, emphasized wisdom in speech and action. He advised knowing when to speak and when to remain silent, and when to act boldly or cautiously. His life involved many moments where discretion was necessary to preserve the community and uphold justice. These teachings highlight the ethical use of prudence and protection. Purpose and wisdom of Taqiya. The main purpose of Taqiya is to protect life, dignity, and faith in times of danger. Islam holds life as sacred and allows believers to adapt when expressing faith openly threatens survival. Taqiya is not a license to lie or betray principles, but a merciful provision for survival. Ethical boundaries. Taqiya must be practiced with sincerity and integrity. It cannot justify dishonesty for selfish gain or harm to others. The intention should always be protection of faith and life. Spiritual significance. Taqiya teaches patience, humility, and trust in Allah. reflects inner strength when outward expression is constrained. Believers rely on Allah's wisdom during trials. Historical role of Taqiya. Throughout history, believers used Taqiya to preserve faith under persecution. By concealing beliefs, communities protected their teachings and ensured continuity. This resilience demonstrates the concept's profound wisdom. The teachings and examples of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and Imam Ali guide believers in balancing openness with caution. In the next part, we will explore their specific teachings on Taqiya and how prudence and protection serve faithfulness in practice. O teachings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and Imam Ali on Taqiya, building upon the foundations of Taqiya. Introduced earlier, it is essential to understand how Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and Imam Ali provided practical guidance on prudence, protection, and faithfulness amidst hardship. Their teachings help believers navigate the fine balance between openly expressing faith and exercising caution when facing danger. The Prophet's wisdom in balancing openness and prudence, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, throughout his mission, demonstrated remarkable wisdom in communicating the message of Islam. His approach was deeply rooted in balancing unwavering commitment to truth with the safety of the community. In Mecca, where hostility was intense, the Prophet counseled his followers to be cautious. For some, openly professing faith was not feasible without risking severe punishment or death. The Quranic permission to conceal faith under compulsion reflects this understanding. The Prophet's strategy involved calling to Islam boldly when conditions allowed and adopting discretion when threats loomed. This balance protected the early Muslim community from unnecessary harm while steadily spreading the message. The Night of Hijrah, a model of strategic prudence. A significant example of prudence in the Prophet's life is the migration from Mecca to Medina, known as Hijrah. Aware of the threats from Quraysh enemies, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, meticulously planned this journey. He concealed his movements and instructed his companion Abu Bakr to avoid detection. This careful strategy ensured the safety of the Prophet and his followers, preserving the nascent Muslim community. The Hijrah symbolizes how prudence and protective concealment can safeguard faith and life in times of danger. The Treaty of Hudaybiyah, patience and wisdom. Another example is the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, a peace agreement between Muslims and Quraysh. Although the terms seemed unfavorable to Muslims, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, accepted them to avoid conflict and ensure peace. This decision, marked by patience and foresight, later paved the way for widespread acceptance of Islam. It highlights that sometimes exercising caution and restraint rather than immediate confrontation better serves the long-term interests of faith. The importance of intention and sincerity. While prudence is permitted, the Prophet consistently emphasized the necessity of sincere belief in the heart. Outward concealment is acceptable only when it does not compromise inner faith. Hadith literature repeatedly underscores truthfulness and trustworthiness as pillars of Islam. Taqiya, therefore, is not an excuse for dishonesty, but a compassionate provision to protect life without betraying one's beliefs. Imam Ali's teachings on discretion and wisdom. Imam Ali's guidance complements the Prophet's approach, offering profound insights on when to speak openly and when to exercise caution. He taught that silence can be a form of strength and that discretion reflects wisdom. His famous saying, "Silence is the best reply to a fool," illustrates the value he placed on measured responses. During times of political and social turmoil, Imam Ali demonstrated the use of prudence to safeguard the community and maintain justice. Examples. From Imam Ali's life, in several instances, Imam Ali concealed his plans and intentions to protect the interests of the Muslim community. For example, during internal conflicts and opposition, he carefully chose when to act decisively and when to hold back. This strategic prudence ensured the survival of the community and the preservation of Islamic values. His life exemplifies Taqiya as a tool not of cowardice, but of wise leadership. Ethical boundaries and spiritual dimensions. Imam Ali emphasized that any concealment must be based on honesty and justice. Deception for personal gain or harm to others is strictly forbidden. Taqiya requires pure intentions to protect faith and life, not to cause injustice. Spiritually, it teaches patience and reliance on Allah's wisdom during trials. It strengthens inner faith even when outward expression is constrained. Courage and caution, finding the balance. Both Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and Imam Ali highlight that faith requires courage but also prudence. There are moments when standing boldly for truth is necessary, and others when patience and concealment better serve the cause. This dynamic balance ensures the continuity and safety of the Muslim community. Trust in Allah. Through Taqiya, practicing. Taqiya reflects a believer's deep trust in Allah's plan. It acknowledges human vulnerability and the complexities of worldly trials. By exercising discretion, believers place their faith in divine wisdom, showing resilience and humility, guidance for contemporary believers. The teachings of the Prophet and Imam Ali remain relevant for believers today. In environments where expressing faith openly may be risky, their guidance encourages patience, wisdom, and inner steadfastness. Believers are reminded to protect their faith and dignity while navigating the challenges of modern life. The understanding of these teachings prepares us to examine, in the next part, how Taqiya has historically functioned as a tool for survival and faith preservation across various periods of Islamic history, enabling communities to endure and thrive despite persecution and hardship. Taqiya as a tool for survival and faith preservation in history. Understanding the historical application of Taqiya reveals how this concept was instrumental in safeguarding Muslim communities through times of persecution and hardship. It is a testament to the resilience and wisdom embedded within Islamic teachings that believers found ways to preserve their faith and identity even under extreme adversity. Historical persecution and the need for prudence. Throughout Islamic history, many communities faced oppression from hostile rulers, invaders, or social majorities that sought to suppress or eliminate their beliefs. In such environments, openly practicing faith could lead to imprisonment, torture, exile, or death. Faced with such threats, the survival of the community depended on prudent strategies, including concealing faith or adjusting outward expressions. Taqiya, as a concept, offered a sanctioned method for believers to protect themselves and their communities without abandoning their core convictions. Early examples. After the Prophet's era following the death of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the Muslim world witnessed political fragmentation and internal conflicts. Various groups faced challenges to their safety and religious freedoms. For some, practicing their faith openly became perilous. Taqiya allowed believers to navigate these challenges, maintaining their beliefs inwardly while avoiding direct confrontation. The role of Taqiya during oppressive regimes. In several historical periods, Muslim minorities lived under rulers or empires that were hostile to their particular beliefs or interpretations. Under such regimes, openly professing faith could result in severe repercussions. Taqiya became not just a personal choice, but a communal survival strategy. By outwardly conforming or concealing their true beliefs, communities preserved themselves until conditions improved. Distinguishing taqiya from deceit is crucial to differentiate taqiya from deceit or falsehood. Taqiya is practiced under duress, with the sincere intention of protecting life and faith. Unlike deception, which is motivated by selfishness or malice, taqiya arises from necessity and humility. It preserves the essence of belief, ensuring it survives rather than being extinguished by oppression. Impact on preserving Islamic teachings. Through taqiya, many Islamic teachings, traditions and practices were safeguarded across centuries. Communities passed down knowledge secretly, maintaining schools, religious texts, and rituals under the radar of hostile authorities. This discretion ensured that the faith could revive and flourish when circumstances permitted. Taqiya, as a means of community cohesion beyond individual survival, taqiya helped maintain unity and cohesion within persecuted groups. By agreeing to practice caution and concealment collectively, communities avoided internal divisions and external targeting. This solidarity strengthened their ability to endure hardships. Notable historical episodes. Involving taqiya, several well-documented episodes illustrate how taqiya was crucial for survival. During periods of foreign occupation or sectarian conflict, believers practiced taqiya to avoid forced conversions or violence. When political powers demanded public allegiance contrary to Islamic teachings, communities navigated these demands through cautious compliance. These historical instances highlight taqiya's role as a protective shield. The psychological and spiritual resilience fostered by taqiya practicing taqiya required immense spiritual strength. Believers maintained inner faith despite external pressures to conceal it. This fostered patience, hope, and reliance on Allah's justice. It also prevented despair, helping communities endure generations of hardship. The role of taqiya in shaping identity and faith practice, though not openly discussed in this video, it is important to note that such historical use of taqiya influenced how communities understood identity and faith expression. It encouraged a dynamic approach to faith, one that valued sincerity over outward appearances and prioritized preservation of core beliefs. Lessons from history for contemporary times. The historical use of taqiya offers valuable lessons for believers today. It reminds Muslims that faith can be preserved even when openly expressing it is difficult or dangerous. It encourages patience and strategic wisdom in safeguarding beliefs. Connecting to the next part, having explored the historical significance of taqiya in protecting faith and community, the next part will address common misconceptions about taqiya. We will clarify misunderstandings and highlight how taqiya aligns with honesty and integrity in Islam. Common misconceptions and clarifications about taqiya, despite its deep roots and wisdom. The concept of taqiya is often misunderstood both inside and outside Muslim communities. This has led to many misconceptions that obscure its true meaning and purpose. To appreciate taqiya fully, it is important to clarify these misunderstandings and explain how it aligns with Islamic principles of honesty and integrity. Misconception 1. Taqiya promotes dishonesty or deceit. One of the most widespread misconceptions is that taqiya encourages lying, deception, or betrayal. This idea wrongly portrays taqiya as a tool for manipulation or falsehood. In reality, taqiya is fundamentally different from deceit. It is not about gaining unfair advantage or harming others through lies. Instead, it is a compassionate allowance, made for believers under threat to protect their lives and preserve their faith. Islam consistently teaches truthfulness and condemns dishonesty. Taqiya operates within strict ethical boundaries, only permitting concealment when sincere faith or life is at risk. Misconception 2. Taqiya is a permanent state of concealment. Some mistakenly believe that Taqiya requires believers to always hide their faith, or that it encourages hypocrisy. However, Taqiya is context-dependent, practiced only in circumstances of danger or persecution. It is not a lifelong disguise, but a temporary protection. When it is safe to do so, believers are encouraged to express their faith openly and confidently. Misconception 3. Taqiya is unique to one group or sect another. Misunderstanding is that Taqiya is exclusive to a particular Muslim group or sect. The principle of prudence and protection appears broadly in Islamic teachings and history, affecting many Muslims facing persecution. The Quranic verses permitting cautious concealment apply universally to all believers. Misconception 4. Taqiya justifies breaking promises or laws. Some think Taqiya allows believers to break promises, betray trusts, or act unlawfully. This is false. Islam commands believers to fulfill promises and uphold justice even under trial. Taqiya does not override moral and legal obligations. It only permits concealment of faith to avoid harm. Misconception 5. Taqiya is synonymous with cowardice. Taqiya is sometimes unfairly seen as a sign of weakness or fear. In truth, practicing Taqiya requires great courage, patience, and faith. It involves enduring hardship without compromising inner belief and trusting in Allah's wisdom. How Taqiya aligns with honesty and integrity. Islam places honesty and integrity at the heart of a believer's character. Taqiya respects these values by strictly limiting concealment to situations where open declaration would cause unjust harm. It preserves faith without endorsing falsehood. Real-life examples of appropriate Taqiya. Consider a believer living in an environment where openly practicing Islam risks imprisonment. By quietly observing their faith while outwardly conforming, they protect themselves without abandoning core beliefs. Such discretion ensures survival and future opportunity. For open practice, the spiritual dimensions of Taqiya cultivates patience, humility, and trust in Allah. It encourages believers to maintain sincerity in their hearts, even when outward expression is constrained. This spiritual resilience strengthens faith over time. Addressing misunderstandings in wider society. Many misconceptions about Taqiya arise from lack of knowledge or prejudice. By educating others on its true meaning, Muslims can foster understanding and reduce stigma. Clarifying Taqiya promotes respect and tolerance across communities. Preparing for the final part with these misconceptions addressed. The final part of this series will explore the modern-day relevance and spiritual lessons of Taqiya. It will highlight how believers today can draw wisdom from this concept to navigate life's challenges with faith and prudence. Modern-day relevance and spiritual lessons of Taqiya. In a world marked by complexity and challenges, the concept of Taqiya continues to offer valuable wisdom for believers navigating their faith and daily lives. While the historical context of Taqiya involved clear physical dangers, its spiritual and practical lessons transcend time, guiding Muslims to live with patience, resilience, and deep trust in Allah. Applying Taqiya in contemporary contexts today, believers may face subtle forms of social pressure, discrimination, or misunderstanding for their faith. While these challenges differ from historical persecution, the principle of prudence remains relevant. Taqiya reminds Muslims to use wisdom in how they express their beliefs, adapting to situations without compromising core values. For example, in environments where overt religious expression may invite hostility or misunderstanding, exercising discretion protects one's dignity and relationships. Balancing faithfulness and prudence. Living faithfully while practicing prudence requires self-awareness and spiritual maturity. Believers must discern when to stand openly for their principles and when to exercise patience and discretion. This balance helps maintain harmony and avoids unnecessary conflict. Spiritual growth. Through patience and trust, Taqiya teaches the virtues of patience, sabiyah, and reliance on Allah, tawakkul. Accepting limitations imposed by circumstances, believers strengthen their inner resolve. This spiritual growth nurtures humility and deepens faith. Strengthening community. Bonds practicing prudence collectively can help maintain unity within communities facing external pressures. Taqiya encourages solidarity and mutual support, fostering resilience in adversity. Preserving identity with wisdom. Taqiya enables believers to preserve their religious and cultural identity even when external expressions are restricted. This preservation is essential for passing faith to future generations. Avoiding extremism and rashness. The lessons of Taqiya caution against recklessness or extremism. Faithful prudence promotes measured responses that protect both the individual and community. Trusting Allah's plan. Central to Taqiya is trust in Allah's wisdom and timing. Believers acknowledge that trials are part of life and rely on divine justice. This trust alleviates fear and encourages perseverance. Inspiring hope and resilience. Taqiya inspires hope that hardship is temporary and that faith can survive and thrive despite difficulties. This hope motivates believers to endure patiently, integrating Taqiya into daily life beyond situations of persecution. Taqiya's principles guide everyday interactions. Exercising discretion in speech and action promotes peace and understanding. Embracing the spiritual essence of Taqiya. Ultimately, Taqiya is not merely about concealment, but about sincere faith, wisdom, and resilience. It reflects a believer's commitment to Allah, balancing truthfulness with compassion and prudence. With this understanding, the concept of Taqiya emerges not just as a historical necessity, but as a timeless spiritual guidance for believers seeking to live faithfully and wisely in a complex world. Throughout this series, we have explored the profound concept of Taqiya, its meaning, origins, Quranic foundations, and the wise teachings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and Imam Ali. We examined its vital role in preserving faith and life through history and clarified common misunderstandings that often cloud its true purpose. Finally, we reflected on how Taqiya's spiritual lessons continue to guide believers today in living with patience, wisdom, and trust in Allah. Taqiya is not simply a strategy for concealment. It embodies resilience, sincerity, and profound faith. It teaches us that safeguarding the heart and protecting life are acts of devotion, especially in times of trial. By understanding and embracing this balance between courage and prudence, believers can navigate challenges with integrity and hope. May this knowledge deepen our appreciation of Allah's mercy and wisdom, empowering us to live faithfully while exercising compassion and wisdom in all circumstances. Dua, O Allah, the most merciful, the most wise, guide us to understand your teachings with clarity and sincerity. Grant us the strength to protect our faith and lives with wisdom and patience. Help us embody the true spirit of Taqiya, balancing truthfulness with prudence, courage with compassion. Shield us from harm and keep our hearts steadfast in your remembrance. O Allah, bless us with trust in your divine plan and perseverance. Through trials, let our actions reflect sincerity and integrity, and may we be among those who uphold your guidance with humility and wisdom. Ameen.